Shalom, shalom, shalom to the nation of Israel. This is your brother Mahar. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the Abanawa Yahawah, right? In the name of His only begotten Son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. Just want to come with a quick lesson about context, right? Context is key to everything. I think I'm gonna title that this, but of course, I was talking to an Edomite scoffer. His name is Dave. I think he's known in the Israelite community as being a rockhead scoffer, right? He's built up a little team with him, of other, what's the word I'm looking for? He has some other Edomites also, but he has, some Jakes, some misinformed and unfortunate Jakes, and it's sad when we see our people, bowing down to the devil, right? And don't get it twisted. He is the goddamn devil that the Bible speaks about, right? These people run everything. I mean, think about it. Do a Google search on any kind of institution that's in this country. Hell, almost any other country. And you'll see that the owner is an Edomite, right? He might be an Amalekite. He might be, a different kind of Edomite, but either way, it's going to be an Edomite. Just like Job says, the world was given into the hand of the wicked, right? And this world has been given to different branches of wicked, right? But if we go into Malachi, we see that the Lord has a special distaste for the nation of Edom, for Idumea, right? He says they are the border of wickedness and a people that he has indignation forever, right? It's not just one person, it's the entire nation. But either way, I had a little discourse with him, and I asked him about the covenants, right? I said, when did the Most High give a covenant to any other nation? A covenant of salvation, mind you. Okay, let's be specific about that. A covenant of salvation to anybody other than the children of Israel, right? And of course, he wanted to go into his spiel. How the serpent is with his, the serpent tongue. But one of the verses that he tried to go into was the book of Isaiah, right? He tried to go into Isaiah 52. Let me pull it up on the screen real quick, right? I don't know if y'all can see that. But he tried to go to Isaiah 52 and 15, right? It says, so shall he sprinkle many nations, right? And he stopped right there, okay? He stopped right there. And he attempted to go to Exodus 24 and 8. I pulled it up on the screen, where it says, and Moses took the blood and sprinkled it on the people. And yet again, he stopped right there, right? Because these serpents are, they slither along and they have that slick tongue, right? But context is the key to everything, right? We know that this context in Exodus 24 is only talking about the children of Israel, right? I don't even have to go far. Right here in verse 10, it says, and they saw the God of Israel, right? It's not the God of everybody, right? Who did Moses take out of Egypt? He didn't take everybody with him, right? And they like to go to the mixed multitude, but the mixed multitude is simply talking about Israelites, right? We'll go to that verse later and just, debunk that, but that mixed multitude was only Israel, because Israel were the ones that were getting their backs beaten in, right? Israel were the ones that were going through the hard labor, right? And working for a king or a pharaoh that didn't know them, right? This was after Joseph's time, right? So it's crazy. And even when we look at this verse, right, when we go to Exodus 24, right, and he wants to talk about verse 8 and taking the blood and sprinkling it on the people and then stopping. Cool. Well, let's go up, right? Who is Moses talking to, right? Talking to Israel, right? He took the elders of Israel, 70 of them, right, and brought them up to the mountain, right? And then he repeated all these words to the people, right? He didn't talk to anybody else, right? Where's Moab, right? Where's Ammon, right? Where's Esau? Esau had his own land. Esau was doing his own thing, right? Where the Hagarenes at? Nowhere to be found. Right? He was talking to the children of Israel, but I just want to illustrate real quick. Context being the key, right? And I want to go to one word that they use horribly, and that's the word stranger. Right? When it's talking about a stranger, they think it's talking about strangers of other nations every time it talks about a stranger, right? But your brother can be a stranger, right? When they finally get into the land and divvy up the land of Canaan, right? Wouldn't someone from Ephraim be a stranger in a land of Judah, right? Or wouldn't someone from the land of Issachar be a stranger in the land of Naphtali, right? Those can be strangers. This is someone with inherited inherited rights, right? But the context is definitely the key. So I actually want to go to, real quick, just to illustrate that, I want to go to Exodus 12. And when we go to verse 48, because the word stranger in itself is seen in so many different places in the scriptures, right? But there's certain context to each word of stranger. Plus, there's also the Hebrew word or the Greek word for stranger, right? When we go into this Exodus 12:48, we go down and we look at the word stranger, and it's talking about Gar, right? That's usually in reference to your own people, right? This would be a sojourner, right? A temporary inhabitant, a newcomer lacking inherited rights, right? Wouldn't that be equitable to, someone from the tribe of Naphtali going to the land of Issachar? Wouldn't he be a sojourner? Wouldn't he be a temporary inhabitant? He wouldn't get treated exactly as someone of the land, but, he will be treated well, right? Unlike a stranger, or what I like to say, a nakar, right? That's another word for a stranger, right? And if we stay in this same chapter in Exodus 12 and we go up to 43, we can see the use of the word nakar, right? And this is the Lord talking to Moses and Aaron. And he says, "This is the ordinance of the Passover. There shall no stranger eat thereof. What's this word for stranger here? Let's check it out. Let's check it out. No stranger on the car, right? Now, we already saw that stranger was used in verse 48, but now we see another stranger being used in 43. Right? And which one is this? This is the foreigner, the alien, right? The one who has foreign gods, a heathen, right? This is talking about a person that is not of the children of Israel. You know, and it's right there in plain sight. It says that no stranger shall eat thereof. Right? But every man's servant that is bought with money, when thou hast circumcised him, then he shall eat thereof. Israelites can be servants. Right? If your brother's falling on hard times, he can definitely be a servant. Right? There's also a law, I believe it's in Leviticus, and we'll go to that also, where it talks about that you can't force, rigor on him. You can't force hard labor on him. You can't work him to the bone, but you can work a stranger to the bone. Right? And then it just reemphasizes right here. Right? A foreigner and an hired servant shall not eat thereof. Right? All the congregation of Israel, or the children of Israel, shall eat. Right? And then it rolls right into the Exodus 12:48 again. When a stranger shall sojourn with thee. Right? This is talking about a stranger of our people. Right? Because the Passover was only given to our people. All the laws, statutes, and commandments were only given to our people. Let me prove that. Let's go to Psalms. We'll go to 147, one of our favorite verses, right? And we'll go to verse 19. Right? He showeth his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments unto Israel. He hath not dealt so with any nation. And as for his judgments, they have not known them. Praise ye Yahawah. Right? We got to praise the Lord because, he decided to just deal with us, right? The children of Israel. And all praises to him for doing that. Right? We should feel blessed that we are a holy nation unto him. Right, that's Deuteronomy 7 and 6. Let's go to that real quick. Right, Deuteronomy 7 and 6. For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself, above all people that are upon the face of the earth. Not below, not equal to. Right? We know that this world will have us all believe that we are all equal. We are not equal. Biologically, we are not equal. Right? We can stand in the sun, and a certain people can't stand in the sun. Right? We get darker, they get more redder. And it's so interesting, that he chose to make them red because when it talks about scarlet or red in the scriptures, it's usually talking about sin. And who sins more than the nation of Esau? Let that sizzle. But back to the topic. So when we see, when we see the context of a scripture, it will supersede any definition that should be in here. And I'll give you an example, right? We went over the word gar, which is H1616, and we went over the word nakar. Let me pull it up again. And the word nakar, right, is H5236. And it's usually referencing an alien or a foreigner or someone that's not the children of Israel. Now, here's where context gets crucial, right? Because we see these two words and we see they're dramatically different. But now what happens when those words are used in a different setting, but they mean something completely different? I'll show you what I'm talking about. Let's go to Isaiah 14:1, another one of our favorite verses. It says, "For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel and set them in their own land." That land that's being polluted by foreigners right now, right? "And set them in their own land, and the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob or of the house of Israel." Right? Now, this word for strangers here is what? Let's see what it's talking about. This word for strangers is, there it is, H1616, the word gar. Right? But in Exodus, we just saw that the word gar was referencing our people. So are you telling me that in this verse right here, that our people are going to cleave unto us? That doesn't make no sense. Let's keep reading. It says, "And the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and handmaids." Right? Pretty much slaves. "And they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors." This right here is the key topic, right? This is the context of this verse. The context is talking about strangers. Which strangers? The strangers that are not the children of Israel, right? But yet it's using the same word that was used in Exodus 12:48. You know? Right? So we know in Exodus 12:48 it's talking about our people. But here in Isaiah 14:1, using the same word, it's actually talking about the other nations. So this is one example of where context matters over what a translator, a man, has put into the text. Right? Let's see another example of it. Let's go to Deuteronomy 14:21. Let's go to Deuteronomy 14:21. Right? And this is just to show you also the difference between a child of Jacob, right, or children of Israel, and everybody else. There are certain things that we as a people can do, but the other nations can't do. And there are certain things that we can't do, but we can do it to them, right? It says, "Ye shall not eat of anything that dieth of itself," right? So if it just, collapses of heat exhaustion from working, or if it's just that time that it's just, the Most High takes that spirit away from that animal and it just plops down in a pile of leaves, we can't eat of it, right? But it says that we can give it to the stranger that is in thy gates. Mind you, these are all laws that the Lord has given us so that we can know what to do in a situation, right? Do we treat a stranger or an alien of another nation the same as we treat our people? No, not at all, right? But this has given us a roadmap. This has given us a baseline that we can work off of for dealing with these other nations, right? These other nations aren't going to teach us this. Your oppressor is not going to teach you this, right? But it says, "Thou shalt give it unto the stranger that is in thy gates." Right? So if you have hired one of these foreigners or one of these aliens outside of the nation of Israel, and he's in your gate, you can give it to him, right? But you can also sell it unto the alien, right? And why? For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God. That's possessive. He's our Father. Right? All praises to him. So when we look into the context of things, we can understand what the precept or what the chapter is actually talking about. Right? Let's go to another instance. Let's go to Leviticus 25 real quick. Leviticus 25. And I want to show you another instance where, let's go to 39. Right? And this is one of the examples of when your brother is waxing poor. Right? 25 and 39, it says, and if thy brother that dwelleth by thee be waxen poor and be sold unto thee, thou shalt not compel him to serve as a bondservant, but as an hired servant and as a sojourner, right? As a temporary inhabitant. He shall be with thee and shall serve thee until the year of Jubilee. That year of Jubilee is 7 years. On the 7th year, you're supposed to release your brother, right? But we're going to see here in the scriptures that the Lord doesn't have the same rules for everybody, right? The children of Israel are given a special set of rules that not everybody has to follow, but will eventually. And then shall he depart from thee. That's the 7th year. That's the Jubilee. Both he and his children with him, and shall return unto his own family, and unto the possession of his fathers shall he return. Right? For they are my servants, children of Israel, which I brought forth out of the land of Egypt. They shall not be sold as bondmen, meaning that you can't pass them from person to person to person to person to person. Right? Here's another one. Thou shalt not rule over him with rigor, but shall fear thy God. So he's not going to be in the field from sun up to sundown, right? That's not what's going to happen to your brother. Both thy bondmen and thy bondmaids, meaning your slaves, your slave man and your slave woman, which thou shalt have, shall be of the heathen that are round about you. Of them shall ye buy slaves and slavettes. Right? Moreover, of the children of the strangers that do sojourn among you, of them shall ye buy, and of their families that are with you, which they begat in your land, they shall be your possession. Right? That's key right there. And ye shall take them as an inheritance for your children after you, to inherit them, talking about the strangers or the Nakar or the heathen around you, for a possession. They shall be your bondmen forever. Right? But over your brethren, the children of Israel, ye shall not rule one over another with rigor. Right? So the Most High has given us laws where we can't work over our brother, right? We can't commit usury on our brother, right? We can't add interest to his debt, right? If we give him $50, he has to give us $50 back, right? Or not, right? I never lend money to somebody thinking I'm going to get it back, right? Doing it out of the goodwill of my heart, right? So if you can give it back, give it back. If not, hey, whatever, right? The Lord will bless us with more. It's just money. But of your heathen, of the heathens around you, you can charge them interest, right? If I lend you 50, I want 3,000 back, How about that for interest? How about that? But of your brothers and sisters, you can't do that, right? So this is just another example of the context being key and what it's actually talking about, right? And showing also that the Most High doesn't love everybody, right? That the Most High doesn't give a damn, excuse my French, about all the other nations, right? He considers them as a drop of a bucket, right? If you go into Second Esdras, if you go into Revelation, if you go into Jeremiah and Isaiah, he has some real bad things that are coming to them, right? All the nations that have taken us into captivity. We're talking about the Babylonian captivity, the Assyrian, the Persian and Mede captivity, the Roman captivity, right? The Greek captivity, right? All these people that have had us in chains and have been beaten in our backs, they're the ones that are going to be getting recompense, and that recompense is going to be coming from the Lord. All praises. So when we go back to that Isaiah 52, right, and we talk about, you know, when the heathen attempts to read our scriptures or attempts to teach us the scriptures, we need to understand that first, he's a snake, all right? And everything that comes out of his mouth is a damn lie, right? They don't want us to be who we were meant to be. They don't want us to be superior to them, right? They like their seat where they're at. They like their slice of heaven, right? They are in rulership, and that's where they want to stay. But they can't stay in that rulership if we know who we are as a nation, right? So when we go back to this Isaiah 52, just to go back to the topic, let's read it for what it's worth, right? It says, so shall he sprinkle many nations, right? And we're going to keep going. We're not going to stop. It says the kings shall shut their mouths at him. These sound like fighting words to me, you know? But what I want to do also, I want to look at this real quick. I want to look at this in a different translation, because there's nothing wrong with different translations, right? Let's go back to that Isaiah 52, but let's look at it in the GNT. The GNT has some great translations, right? And let's read it. Let's talk about it from the beginning, right? It says, Jerusalem, be strong and great again, the holy city of God. We are his holy city. All right, let's go back to that in the KJV and let's see if it's the same thing that's being said in the beginning. Awake, awake, put on thy strength, O Zion. Right, that's the children of Israel. Put on thy beautiful garments, O Jerusalem, the holy city. Right, we belong to the Most High Power. So we know that the context of this chapter starting off is Israel, and there's no one else. Right? It says, shake thyself from the dust, arise and sit down, O Jerusalem. Loose thyself from the bands of thy neck, O captive daughter of Zion. This is telling us to rise up. Right? This is future prophecy right here of when the Most High will forgive our iniquities and will forgive everything bad that we've done to him. Right? He's going to no more remember our sins. Right? But he's going to rescue us. He's going to, this will be one of the greatest events in world history. Okay? This is going to be the official second Exodus for the children of Israel. Right? You know, it's a great read, right? But it's also talking in that verse 52, in that 13, 14, and 15, it's talking about the exalted servant. Who is that exalted servant that the Lord loves so much? Besides Israel, it's his son, Mashiach, right? He's the one that will be doing all of this destruction that's coming. Right? Let's read it in the GNT. It says, the Lord says, my servant will succeed in his task. He will be highly honored. And what is his task? To come back and rescue the children of Israel from bondage. Many people were shocked when they saw him. He was so disfigured that he hardly looked human. This was when they beat him to a bloody pulp when he was among us. Right? Before he got crucified, they beat him bad. Right? I'm sure they broke many bones. But let's keep reading. It says, but now many nations will marvel at him, and kings will be speechless with amazement. They will see and understand something they had never known. And that something is that the Most High is sending his son to rescue the children of Israel. Right? The Most High is not going to sprinkle many nations with the blood that he has only given to the children of Israel. Right? Christ himself said that he shed his blood only for the children of Israel. Right? So when you have these heathens trying to teach us our book, it's a problem. Right? It's a problem because they'll never, ever teach us the right way. Right? Here's Christ's own words. Matthew 15:24, another favorite. It said, but he answered and said, I am not sent but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Right? He only cares about us. Right? It is not meet to take the children's bed and cast it to dogs. Everyone, he's talking to the woman of Canaan, the Syro-Phoenician woman, and telling her that she's a dog. And what's the English translation for a female dog? We all know that. I won't repeat it here, but you all know that. Anyway, I hope this was edifying. I hope you all are doing well. Shalom.